Good morning, Class 8. My name is Rani Gautam, Army Public School, Old Can, Prayagraj. I am your SST teacher. So today we will revise the chapter number 2, Geography. Name of the chapter is Land, Soil, Water, Natural Vegetation and Wildlife Resources. Student, see this diagram. Resources, natural resources, human-made resources, human resources. So first of all, revise the meaning of resources. What is resources? So I am just telling you what is resources. Any substance, living being or service that has utility, that is, can help us in any possible way, is said to be resources. A resources has some value. The value can be associated with money or just mental satisfactory. For example, when you look at a beautiful painting or scenery, it feels pleasant. So, the painting or scenery has utility. For example, resources are also including stationery material, clothes, utensils, furniture, your teacher, school, rivers, water, electricity, and so on. So I hope you can understand the meaning of resources. In simple word, you can also say any substance having utility in any way is a resource. Okay? Now, these resources are of three types. Number 1 is natural resources. Number 2 is man-made resources. Number 3 is human resources. You can see today we are revising the chapter number 2 and the name of chapter is Land, Soil, Water, Natural Vegetation and Wildlife Resources. All these are included in the natural resources. Or you can say the other examples like rivers, lakes, air, soils, minerals, trees, mountains, etc. are natural resources. Now the second one is your human-made resources. Now, human-made resources means when the human being have used their intelligence to manufacture them for their own use. For examples, it includes vehicles, buildings, roads, telephone, etc. You can easily see this. What is this? Yes, this is hand sanitizer. Nowadays, we all are using this hand sanitizer. Okay, and this is also made by human being. So, this is one of the good example like these markers. Okay, all these are made by this human being, including in human made resources. Alright, student. Now, the number 3 is human resources. It includes people who serve us in any way, like teachers, doctors, carpenters, cobblers, etc. All these are included in human resources. Okay? So, let's start the first one, that is your land. Now, land, the quality of land, soil and natural vegetation, animal and the usage of technology are important factors in controlling the standard and way of life people lead at a particular place. Land. It is not suitable for living everywhere because of a lot of additional conditions that affect. What are these conditions which affect our life? Yes, when we are want to be live in any place, we have to be look the part of the land is suitable for living being or not. Okay, like some factors affecting the habitability of a place are topography, height from sea level, climate, fertility of soil, vegetation, etc. People cannot live in dense forest or in deserts. They cannot live on high slopes in mountainous areas or in low-lying areas where there is possibility of floods and waterlogging. Plains and river valleys are the places where agriculture is suited. So, most of the world population lives in such areas and these areas are heavily populated. Okay student, now let's discuss the different type of uses of this land. The purpose and way in which land is used is called land use. Land use may be for agriculture, forestry, mining, building houses, road, setting up of industries or various other purposes. Now the factors which determining the land use are including physical factors like topography, availability of water, climate, minerals, soil, etc. or human factors like demography, technology and education. Okay? And do you know the land usually has ownerships? Yes, it may be private land or community land. Student, private land is owned by an individual or group of individuals. Like a house is private land, community land is meant for use by anyone in the society, like land for collection of fodder, fruits, etc. Community lands are also called common property resources. Land degradation. It includes landslides, soil erosion, and the major threats to the environment. So, due to the huge damage for land, people have also started reducing forest covering in order to make them habitable. This has resulted into deforestation. Afforestation means growing trees, regulated use of chemical pesticides and checking or overgrazing by animals are some general methods to conserve these valuable natural resources. Student, in my next video, I will tell you about soil, water, what is the meaning of soil, the definition of soil, soil degradation, and how to conserve these natural resources and wildlife resources. Okay? So kindly watch my video. Thank you. Okay student, this is my second video in which I am just telling you about soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife resources. In my previous video, I have already explained the resources, meaning of resources, the different type of resources, as well as about the land and its uses. Okay, so in this video, the second is soil. What is soil? First of all, the word soil refers to the thin layer of grainy substance covering the surface of the earth. This layer is made up of organic matter, minerals and weathered rocks. The long process of weathering is responsible for the formation of soil. Weathering means it is a process in which the rocks, they just break down into simplest particle and then they form a soil. Okay. Now students, you can see this diagram in which I have explained about the factors affecting soil formation. So these are the factors which are responsible for the soil formation. First is parent rock, relief, flora and fauna, time and climate. The first one is parent rock. It determines color, texture, etc. Second is your relief. It determines accumulation of soil. Flora and fauna affects rate of humus formation. Next is time. It includes thickness of soil. Climate. It includes rate of weathering. So these are the factors which are responsible for the formation of soil. Now let me tell you about the degradation of soil and conservation methods. Student, you know, soil erosion and depletion pose major threat to the quality and resourcefulness of soil. Degradation takes place by both human and natural factors. Deforestation, overgrazing, overuse of chemical fertilizers or pesticides, rainwash, landslides and floods lead to degradation of soil. Now how will you conserve the soil? Plowing parallel to counters of hill slope to form a natural barrier for water to flow down a slope is called counter ploughing. Rows of trees are planted in certain areas to check wind movement. Such rows are called shelter belts. These trees are supposed to bind the soil, thus preventing them from being eroded away easily. So, these are the measures by which we can conserve the soil. Next is your water resource. As you know, water covers about 70% of the earth's surface. Therefore, the earth is called the water planet. Ocean water is saline and not fit for human consumption. Fresh water is just about 2.7% of the total water. Do you know the fresh water? Fresh water, it is the when the glaciers melts and then came down to the on the earth's surface. Now, how will you conserve this water resource? Water storage is a common problem in many parts of the world. It may be consequence of variation in rain patterns or contamination of water sources. So steps need to be taken to conserve water. Water is renewable, but its overuse and pollution make it unfit for use. Sewage, industrial waste, chemicals, etc. pollute water and metals and pesticides. So how will you conserve the water resource? Yes, there are 3 ways to conserve water, like rainwater harvesting. It is the method of collecting water while it rains so that it may come of use in future. Second, the canals used for irrigation should be properly built so that loss of water does not take place while the water is transported to the field. Next is, in dry regions, drip or trickle irrigation is suggested. So these are the methods in which we can conserve the water resource. Next is your natural vegetation and wildlife resources. Natural vegetation and wildlife exist in biosphere. First of all, what is this biosphere? the narrow zone of contact between the lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere is called the biosphere. The supporting and interdependent life system that exists in biosphere is called Hello student, this is my third video. In this, I just tell you about the natural vegetation and wildlife resources. First of all, the natural vegetation, and after that I'll just tell you about the wildlife resources. Natural vegetation and wildlife exist in biosphere. Biosphere means the narrow zone of contact between the lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere is called biosphere. Now the supporting and interdependent life system that exists in biosphere is called ecosystem. Plants provide us with a number of important products. Yes, shelter to animals, oxygen which support life, protect soil and give us much of our food. In wildlife, animals, birds and insects are also helpful in a lot of way. Yes, as you know, insects like bees provide us, yes, very good, honey, and a bird like the vulture cleans the environment by feeding on dead livestock. Vegetation depends on temperature and moisture of a region. Forest, grasslands, shrubs and major vegetation type across the world. Heavy rainfall supports huge trees. Low moisture means less dense forest and smaller trees in deserts. We have thorny shrubs and the other plants. Now student, I just tell you about how will you conserve all these resources. There are huge concern about conservation of these important resources. We must contribute to this, like natural park, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reservoirs are ways to protect vegetation and wildlife. So, this is our duty to conserve plants and animals. So, student, this is our moral duty to conserve plants and animals. We have to grow more and more trees. Understand? So, here I end my this chapter. We have revised lots of about all these natural resources. Today we have learned about the meaning of resources, the type of resources, land, soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife resources, their degradation as well as the conservations. Okay, how will we conserve all these resources? So let's revise once again the important words that matter in this chapter. That is, the first one is natural vegetation, means plants and trees like the natural vegetation. What is biosphere? The narrow zone of contact between the lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere is called the biosphere. Ecosystem, the supporting and interdependent life system that exists in the biosphere is called ecosystem. Factors affecting the soil formation, parent rock, relief, flora and fauna, time and climate. Land, what is land? The surface of the earth which is solid and covered about 30% of the total surface of the earth is called land. And national park. A national park is a natural area supposed to be used to protect the ecological integrity of one or more ecosystem for present and future generation. And this is our duty to conserve plants and animals. Thank you, student.